I hope you get
Wow, I'm Olivia. I'm wearing a leather jacket because I like the 1975 and I'm edgy.
Hi.
I,
Olivia DeVoe.
Reese Catherine Herberg, am begging on my knees for Josh Ovalle to come on the Internet is Dead podcast
Shall be on this podcast.
immediately. Please come back home.
We miss you.
We're all like scared, like staring at the door.
Hey guys, welcome
Hey
to
guys.
the Dead podcast.
Hey guys.
Hi.
I'm Brittany and Sameera is here, joined by Reece and Olivia, our two friends from
Away.
college.
Woo.
I mean, everyone was excited. Current Joys and then Reese and Olivia.
On the up, on the up.
I don't like any of you guys. Like, I really like do everything for clout. Every decision that I make is motivated by internet clout and how I can get more of it. So I just
Is
want to
it
make
true
that
that you
clear.
used to bully people in high school?
You know what? It was elementary school, and I was sent to the counselor's office, and I learned, and I no longer bullied anyone ever again. But yeah, I was a tormentor for like 2 years. Do I give up like bully energy? I'm honestly
I think like normally people who were online they like came to the internet because they got bullied, but somehow
Yeah.
you got there because you were
See,
bullying.
I like needed like a new platform. Do you guys remember Ask FM?
Did you bully
would-
people on Ask FM?
No, I didn't bully people on Ask FM, but I would like bully myself for attention. I would like start like drama like with myself, and I would like send myself something like, why like the fuck did you do this during like third period? And I'd be like, honestly, like I don't really want to talk about it. Like if it's really that serious, like talk to me offline. And everyone would be like, what?
I feel like every popular person's Ask FM was just like their own like self.
I miss Ask FM. I miss Ask FM. I miss like all like the online like cyberbully platforms.
I miss Kick. Well, you know when like people would like there'd be like the popular like boys and girls, and people would like there would be like things on each of their Ask FMs like shipping them with like other people. You know what I mean? Which is like so crazy. We like treated everyone like they were celebrities on Ask FM.
There was
They're,
always
like,
that one bitch that was like asked herself a question and I forgot to put like the anonymous like
Yeah,
whatever.
no, actually nobody was looking at it too. Like I know that nobody was checking it, but like I was updating it. Like,
Do you guys both want to like introduce yourselves?
Oh
yeah,
right.
I feel like a good place to start is like explaining how we all met. I was talking to Sameera about this, and I was thinking about when like Reece when we met at a party, and then we were like,
we were so annoying.
well, because I remember
so
literally
good.
leaning against the door, and like you walked in, and like I don't even know how the conversation happened, but I remember us both ending up in a state where we were screaming about the internet, and then we both were like connecting about like what we both watched.
That was what I was gonna say, is like I grew up in such like a suburban like bubble area, and I was really like one of the only like weird people that was super on the internet. So like to meet somebody in person that just like natural like Joshua, like the entire like Greer crew. First of all, I think we bonded over Greer because I was like, I love the band Greer and I'm like seeing them in concert, and you were like, no way.
Yeah. That's what it
And
was.
like for somebody to like know them and like know them because of, I guess, I don't know if you call it like Vine or just like being in that niche of the pocket of the internet was just so bizarre and out of body. And then I remember that like somebody was like, can you guys like please like move from the door because you're actually being like extremely obnoxious.
The memories of like meeting you guys, it is just interesting. We were like just talking about this when we like did our last episode, but like I feel like when you meet people you kind of know that you have the same brain as them, and it's I think because we grew up in the
Cut from
same
the same
way on the
cloth.
internet. And I guess there's like equivalents to that generationally. It's different for like us now that we have that thing, because I think you can tell how online someone was. And I know that's not like a measure of like someone's like personhood, but
no, but it is, right? Because I feel like the fabric of all of our humors is really like we can contribute a lot of it to growing up online. Like I feel like even with like Olivia, like in the first conversation, like there's a certain like quirk, or I was like, this girl knows what's up.
Yeah,
this girl has had her rounds on some following parties, if you will.
can everyone like kind of give a background of what they were on, I guess? Because I feel like that's like, you know, that's
it's important. First, well, oh my god, this is gonna be so like embarrassing to like say out loud. I
so
feel like I'm
funny.
at like an addiction like meeting. You know, I was a One Direction and Five Sauce stans. So I was mostly started on Instagram, and then I like ventured over to Twitter because like my friends were on Twitter, and Twitter like really started like, I guess like being like the main vehicle of which you could like talk to like your faves
Yeah.
if you will.
It was like the most
So
interactive.
like, hey, I've been obsessed with like this aspect of internet culture, like just the idea of how we kind of have seen like all these phases of the internet, like how we've seen like the demise of like the 2016 like YouTube crew, and then like fucking like Team 10, and then like Hype House, and then like also like the question of like where the fuck are these influencers going to be in 20 years? I think about that like all the time. I literally like recently I've seen like Taylor Kniff on TikTok, and I like
I saw
stalked all
that,
his
yeah.
account. His story is just so interesting to me because I don't know. Whatever. I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say that.
It's same with
We'll
like Acacia Brindley, like
yes,
too.
I thought of something that's like actually like really integral to my internet experience. Before I had a One Direction fan account in the 5th grade, I had a Glee fan account with my other friend. Why I was watching Glee in the 5th grade, like, is the reason why I have issues with love and intimacy today. But I had a Glee fan account, and when Cory Monteith died, I literally acted like a family member died, and I posted like 8 tributes in a row. The Glee fandom was my entryway into internet stan culture, and I just have to be honest and forthcoming about that.
I mean, being a Gleek opened me up to kind of everything. Kurt Hummel was my first sexual feeling.
Are you serious?
The Glee fandom weirdly went hand in hand with like everything else in music culture, because I remember when Cory died, and then it was like right around like the TCAs or something, and then everyone was live tweeting the TCAs, and it was like such a thing in like music stan world, I guess. But Olivia
dying was like the first like person that like died that had an impact on me, I feel like.
That's insane.
Yeah, our age.
I threw myself, I remember finding out it was a Sunday morning. I threw myself to the ground and I was like sobbing. It was a sickening like morning. It was obviously, I didn't actually know him, but it really felt like I mean that's like the entire like reason why I think, especially as like young people, why we grow so attached and we spend so much time and energy with these people, because you really do feel like they're friends or family, which now I think I've grown out of that. I mean, I definitely have, but like as a kid, like all you want is to feel like you have like friends or community.
Agree. Oh, my parasocial relationships were so strong. I was obsessed with Tobuscus, and I hate that, but I was obsessed with him. And one time he was going live, and somebody on Tumblr was like, he's acting weird towards his friend. And I thought this was like a cancellation for good, because it was just one person saying like he's done.
Yeah.
And then I like got so upset. I was like throwing a tantrum, crying, and I wrote on a bunch of pieces of paper, like printer paper, "Forever the Audience," which is his fandom name, the Audience. And I wrote "Forever the Audience" like 100 times, and I taped it to my basement wall, like so that the wall was covered in "Forever the Audience." And then I like fell asleep on the floor.
I have, Olivia, what you just said like kind of brings me to this like next question I have for like all of you, because what you just said, like, I mean, I did obsessive crazy shit like that too. What links, or like, did you guys ever feel like, and I already know the answer is going to be yes, but I want to know like more specifically in what ways, when you were like a young girl, like kind of having these like obsessions, what like links did you go to like hide them, and like did you feel a sense of shame? Because I definitely did. And like my like post like after school like internet world, I would have completely separate from like, I didn't even tell like my close friends at school, because I was like, this is so embarrassing.
I feel like I like at first didn't hide it. Like I like was so into the things I liked. Like I like to go back to what we were like, us just like saying what we were kind of on. My first thing that I was really invested in was Ariana Grande, and I had a fan account for her, and I talked about it in school all the time, and people thought I was like batshit crazy, like the way I spoke about it. And now I think it's like a super normal thing and a super normal like kind of personality that people now understand and probably look back on, and they're like, that's weird that she was doing that in 4th grade. But I literally like on Twitter in 4th grade, like coming into school, and like Ariana Grande had this thing called like bow day, because she was super into bows, and I literally like brought like paper like bows into school for people. Yeah, it was like cracked. But I think like after that I stopped talking about it, and then didn't want anyone to find my account. I was like very vocal about like my like people IRL like can't find my account, like you know, that sort of thing. And like I remember people trying to follow me once they started slowly joining onto Twitter, and I would like block them. And I remember literally getting into fights with people from my school like over them following me. Well, they were also like mean, but they were like didn't like me, so like that was like where it came from.
Like with reason, you were protective. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like out of the blue, like just for no reason. I feel like you like grow to be defensive when people are like, that's really lame. It's like, I don't think it's lame, and I don't want to like feel like I have to like, I guess, cater or like filter myself for you because I don't care about your opinion, but also like, I mean, when you're 13, like you do. You don't want to be like that person. That's like, oh my God, like she spends all of her time like tweeting like your name imagines about Harry Styles. Like I would very much like rather not. I used to fake name. Like it was that serious.
Well, my fake name was April, which is
That's a good fake name.
That's a really good
it's
fake
based
name.
off of a character in Rent that doesn't exist in Rent. It's just Roger's girlfriend who died of AIDS.
This is like kind of a side story, but I literally was so like bullied for like when I first talked about having a fan account. Like I don't even know if I want to tell it. But it's
You
just
don't have
like,
to.
yeah, when I was like in fourth grade, I made my fan account and like people knew like who were in my elementary school that I was like obsessed with Ariana Grande, and I had like a Kick account and I like named like my username like Brittany Grande. Prior to like really talking about this, I like got bullied in school. When I was younger, I was on steroids for like asthma. I would like be out sick from school all the time. And I would come back after being out sick for a long time and people would be like really, really mean to me. I remember coming into school one day and my face was like all puffy from like steroids. Like the boys in my like grade were like making fun of me actively, like pretending to ask me out and stuff like that. And this was like a traumatizing experience. And like made me then question going forward in my life where I was like, is anything ever real when like someone is interested in me? This was a long time ago, but it was like very weird to experience as a kid. And I'm sure that a lot of people have probably had like even like worse experiences. For like the popular kids in my school at the time were coming up to me and like they had this whole kind of like ring of them like who were a part of it where the girls were somehow a part of it too, and it was like really intense, and my parents had to end up like going into the school
Jesus.
because like what they were doing was qualified as sexual harassment. What happened was I had like my username as Brittany Grande, and then they started being like, oh, are you gay? Like, do you like Ariana Grande because you're gay? Like, are you gay? Like, is that why you like won't go out with me? I don't know, I think it like changed my brain because I started questioning everything and questioning like social structures and like how people interact with each other and like what means what, because like I up until that point I think thought what people were saying was true and like took people for their word at face value, and then it like completely changed how my brain worked where I was like, oh, now I have this second layer of like trying to understand what people like actually mean and what their intentions are, and like that people can be fake and like be doing things just to be mean. But yeah, what you were asking, how like if there was like shame involved with that, like, I feel like that like played a really weird role in how I then viewed like fan account stuff, because I feel like I then saw like people in real life, it was almost like I was like against them, if that makes sense, because like they hit me against them so early on. I was like, I hate people in real life. Like everyone at my school sucks. Like, you know, and like I think that was a common thing on the internet too. But yeah, sorry, that was so
No, I'm well,
really
first of all, I'm sorry that you went through that. That's like very terrible, and like that actually is like you said, like sexual harassment and bullying. I also had experiences like that of just like boys being mean or like people at school being like not the nicest because I was kind of like weird and awkward growing up. It made me like burrow into internet culture even more because I could present a certain way online, and also like I had a certain safety net with my internet friends that I didn't have with my IRL friends. At least like when I was like in middle school or like late elementary school, when I still felt like I didn't really have a place in school and like I definitely wasn't popular or cool. And like online I could be those things. Like I don't know. I feel like that like I feel like just knowing how popular you were online, like actually like noticed by celebrities and like had like a really great like how many followers did you have on Twitter?
I had like on my Ariana fan account, I had like 10K at a time, and I
Yeah.
had like 5K on like a YouTube fan account.
Yeah, there's a sense of like almost like power when you feel like when you don't have any in like your actual like life. Anyway, I just thought that was like I feel like it makes the correlation make sense to me of why you would go like full hand after that.
And the performance aspect of it, where you're saying like you get to be someone else and yeah, not have to be yourself when you're online. I 100% agree with that in like middle school. That was 100% how I was. I was in middle school, like I wouldn't talk to anybody. I just like wouldn't interact with people. I was very weird. Yeah, and I had like I would have a character online that I would be, whether it was like the owner of this fan account who has a different name, or honestly, as I got older, that stuck. That still sticks with me. I'm playing a character on my Instagram. Like that's not really me. But yeah, I like completely dived into just my life online, and I was like, I don't want the life that's not online. Like I just don't want to be involved in that. Why would I? Like it sucks. I'm 12 years old and everything sucks. So I'm just exist here where I don't even have to be myself, which I don't like myself at 12. I can just be this person that's made up.
Like a person who's supporting a different person. It like almost erases your identity too. I feel like it took me like a really long time to like break out of that or come to that. I think it like took having community in like real life. Do you guys still want to explain where on the internet you were? Because we really went on a tangent, and I want everyone to kind of have a chance to like.
Yeah, I never even like I didn't introduce myself. I'm Olivia, and I'll say it. I'm Team Tumblr, and I grew up on Tumblr. Team Tumblr, what's up? I
didn't
for
even
audio
bring
listeners,
props.
it's an okay bow.
Okay. From the book John Green's Fallen or Star. I had an aesthetic blog. I had a Broadway blog. I had a, I don't know, dumb internet shit blog. And I had also lots of Instagram fan accounts. I had one for the band, the acapella, the girl band Cimorelli from YouTube.
Oh my God, yeah.
I had a Star Kid fan account, and I was like in like Skype productions of Star Kid shows as a.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Sameera, do you want to give
Yeah, so it all started in sixth grade when I like wanted to be friends with this one girl really bad because I like didn't have any friends. And she was like a big One Direction fan. And so then I was like, oh, One Direction, haha. Started getting into One Direction, and I had like an Instagram fan account. I had one called Horror and Hugs.
Sameera, you were such a Niall girl.
Oh.
Like that makes so much sense for you.
The girl that I want to be friends with, she was like a hairy girl, and she like had claimed Harry, you know, so I couldn't be Harry. And then another girl,
oh my God.
Girl, so I couldn't have Zayn. And it's like no one wanted to be a Louis girl or a Liam girl, so I had to be a Niall girl, you know. It was very territorial.
Did you write fan fiction?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that like went into liking Five Sauce, and then also just liking like all the Warped Tour bands of like All Time Low, like Panic, like all that like stuff. That was like the pipeline of like One Direction, that. And also I was on Tumblr because I was like really depressed, and Tumblr was like the place for like depressed people.
I'll add to like what I said. I mentioned like I had like the Ariana fan account that started in like 4th grade for me, and then it went to Fifth Harmony. And then I got into YouTubers because Ariana Grande was friends with Miranda Sings. So I found YouTube through all of that. I watched Fred, of course. Like, come on, who didn't? His videos were like formative. And that was like so like core YouTube. I think I watched YouTube grow in a crazy way. Like, I think probably a lot of us did, like, who are on this call.
I was really on YouTube also. Like, I was like, yeah, obsessed with like literally like all the British YouTubers, O2L. And like
okay, O2L I was obsessed with, and I went to their like tour. To this day, that is the craziest, most like unsafe tour I've ever been in, where I like literally felt unsafe.
Dude, Digitour was also like that.
Trevi came out recently, and she was like talking about it, and she was like, I never really like processed the trauma of seeing like our fans just like basically like trample over themselves to get to the front. There's no like organization or security. I think like 4 people passed out at my show.
I need to watch Trevi talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I used to be in group chats with her on on like Twitter and like Snapchat because of like I went to Lohanthony, and then you know I like want to talk about this another time, but like his whole lore of like him like becoming Christian and like just like not believing in like
conversion therapy it's alleged. I don't know if it's true, but it's alleged that he went to conversion therapy.
I think it's confirmed. I think he talked about it, but maybe I'm wrong. I was into like Gen X Pen, like Lauren Elizabeth, like all those people, Andrea Russet, like all of O2L. And then I really got into Tana Mongeau, and that was like my YouTube like prime. I was in like this like big group chat for her, and we met like a bunch of times. She like knew my mom. It was like a whole thing. I was like in a group chat with Shane Dawson from
She knew Mitzi?
Yeah.
Miss Mitzi D.
I was like in this Snapchat group chat with her and like the other fans. We had this group chat called BleedyCon. I like want to talk about this way more in detail like at some point. And then like Shane Dawson would talk in our group chat because like Tana would talk about our group chat, and then like Corinna Kopf would talk to us, like James Charles. It was like literally like the most insane era of like YouTube Twitter.
Yeah,
but
I think that like that's an interesting point too, because like us talking about these parasocial relationships with these like LA celebrities that like I maybe you have with Ariana if she noticed you a few times, but I never got noticed by Harry or anyone on One Direction or Five Sauce, like try as I might, but I never did. Whereas like with YouTube, like especially before like now where, you know, shit has happened, like shit has hit the fan in the way where like I think YouTubers are starting to get more boundaries. There used to be like no boundaries at all. So the parasocial relationships that people would have formed with these YouTubers felt like, I think, a lot more real, because it's like you can like probably like tweet your favorite YouTuber or like comment on like and like get a response back. And I feel like that just like is like the reason why like YouTube and then Vine later like blew up in such a big way, because there is a lack of barrier between like consumer and, you know, creator.
Yeah, and people like that a lot. Like people like being able to like interact with their person that they're like idealizing is like an insane thing, and it like creates this whole like, we've talked about this before, but I think it created like this weird sense of like getting like satisfaction from these like extreme highs of like literally like someone liking a tweet and like it like making your head fuzzy, and then like craving that again and again, and then like wanting to like make it even closer of a connection. And yeah, it's really interesting.
And then that also like led to like so much like grooming of like fans and minors and stuff, which like I just like don't think, like, thank God it like doesn't exist in that like way anymore today, because there are like barriers and stuff, but it was like so new back then that it was like there was no boundaries. So like literally like so many, like it was just like so much happening.
Do you guys think that those like relationships can exist kind of like where fans and their like idols can interact with each other in that way and it's not grooming? It's weird. I've like talked about like my experiences being in like that Tana group chat and like being so close with her and like all of her friends. I've like mentioned it to people and they literally try to tell me that I've been groomed, and it's like very interesting because I'm like, well, what are we like it's definitely a weird dynamic that you're kind of breaking like some sort of barrier, but at the same time, it was so fun for all of us who were in that group chat, and I don't think any of us saw it negatively. I don't know, and I guess that's like also a part of grooming, but yeah, I don't know.
There's different like ends, like not everything is the extreme. Like there's just like things can sit anywhere, and it's your experience. So if you know you enjoyed yourself with that, that's awesome.
I also think people throw around the term grooming like very casually now. I feel like it's just like in to like say that anything like is, and like obviously it's like a weird thing because you like don't know you're being groomed, so then it's like just like what even does that mean? But like yeah, I don't know. It's like interesting that people say that to you though about like your experiences, because you like literally just were like, I feel like that was just like a fan just like tweeting and like being in like group chats and stuff, and it wasn't like anything like inappropriate ever happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I do know like Tana was inappropriate, you know what I mean? Like she didn't have many boundaries, but at the same time, we were really actually really close in age when this was happening. There was still like a power dynamic, but yeah, I was thinking about this recently though, going back to what you just said. I was talking to my mom about how the internet has gotten really weird because people are like hated really, really easily, and like people forget the reason why they're hating people. I mean, I guess that was always a thing, but it just like feels crazy now because like I've been seeing so much Camila Cabello hate, and it makes me sad because I'm like, I don't know, like obviously like celebrities are very like I don't even know how to say this in the right way. Like they're people, but then they also are like so out of touch. But at the same time, I don't know. It just makes me sad because I specifically with her, because I was such a fan of Fifth Harmony, watched her grow. I think people hate her because I think she was 11 and she said the N-word on Twitter. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's like more stuff that people hate her for. But it just makes me sad because I'm like, God, like imagine having everyone just like discredit everything you do and not like allowing you to grow. I don't know. It like that's such like a thing people talk about, but yeah.
Say like in regards to like in like the grooming conversation, but I think that this sort of goes hand in hand with what you were just touching on, which is this sort of like commodification, I think is like not more harmful than grooming, but I think more prevalent, where like, yes, like obviously we saw with the Colleen Ballinger situation, and like I think in some cases with Shane Dawson too, of like actual like concrete examples of grooming. But I think like more prevalent, and like something that I had to deconstruct more with my experience personally, was just not idolizing people. And I think like the commodification goes both ways. Of people will really like idolize, and in turn I think it like dehumanizes celebrity, of like this person almost becomes like an entity and like less of an actual human being. And I mean, like when Louis and Zayn got caught smoking weed, people
Yeah.
were like actually like having like suicidal ideation on Twitter because of that. And because like again, like this idolization and like putting so much into people. And I think the inverse of that is like, yes, like we see, especially with women, with female celebrities, of like if like people just wake up one day and decide that they don't like that celebrity, and then like Twitter just sort of dogpiles on them. Like, I mean, even with like the Ariana Grande, like Ethan Slater fucking drama like that, where everyone again like feeling like they know what happened. My cat's like saying hello right now, but we don't know these people. Like, unless they're doing something problematic, why are we like so, I guess, like invested in their moral compasses, or like if they're good people? Like, I mean, obviously, like again, there's like if somebody's racist, like fuck them. If somebody's like sexist, fuck them. But I mean, like in their like, I mean more on a personal level of like their personal dramas. A lot of times like with like women, like even people like with like the Billie Eilish like hate train, like trying to call her like cringy or like just like dogpiling. What has she done? Like, you know what I mean? Like people just like love to hate popular shit for like no fucking reason, and don't think that it impacts the person. Like, I'm sure that like that does like impact her, and she probably internalizes that like a lot.
It also impacts the people who are reflected onto those people. Like, let's say, I don't know, like let's say someone online, Billy is getting like hate for like a behavior of hers, or she was that one time when she was getting hate for queer baiting or something. It's like, well, she wasn't open about her sexuality, and that's her choice. So someone else, like just a normal person, seeing that and being like, well, I see myself in how she's behaving, and people are hating that, like that, like you can internalize it. I internalize that with a lot of things, even like the way that people are talking about Ariana. Like, I'm like, God, people like are get that mad when you make mistakes. Like, I don't know.
But I am like just genuinely curious to like know your guys' opinions on like I don't know, like does then like being a celebrity, like making art, like whatever, like does that then like hold you to like a certain amount of responsibility to like use your platform? Because like going back to like Billie, like I know like recently like she like wore like a whatever like like a ceasefire pin at like the Oscars, but then like literally like 2 days later or whatever, like her and Phineas were like spotted at a Starbucks, and people on Twitter were like really like, okay, like what, like, and then also even with like Taylor Swift, like just like her like obviously not using her platform for anything other than like issues that affect her directly, like as like when she like whatever like Miss Americana came out and she was talking about like abortion rights and all that, and that was like the first time she's like ever talked politically about something, but like she hasn't said a word about any other like issues or whatever. And like I don't know, I think that that's like also an interesting topic of like, okay, like where then is the line with like having like a certain amount of like personal responsibility or stuff.
Okay, at least in the case of people canceling, I was gonna also kind of add this, like what you were saying about like, for example, like Ariana getting so much hate for like the whole like cheating with Ethan thing. We don't even actually know what's going on is the thing. Like, and that's what freaks me out is like there's like so much like misconstruction in the media because people want a story. So it's like you don't actually know. But then in cases where you're talking about where it's like, okay, we're seeing this person has power, and are like they actually trying to use it, I feel like it's like, I don't know, to me I think it's in like, I don't really admire people unless they do, I guess, because they just have like a crazy amount of power that's like you can be using that for so much good. And I think that's what like has made me admire people in the past. I feel like I initially like got into liking the people who I did because I thought that they were like that, and that they were like different and more like human, if that makes sense. Even though
I think like at the beginning of what you're saying, like the misinformation clouds a lot of things. Even with the Billy thing, like some people don't think that Starbucks some people don't even think that Starbucks is pro-Israel. Like, so there's a lot of like different ways that people look at things and a lot of different information that people are getting. And so it gets really fucking confusing about when you talk about morality, because morality is also really confusing and everyone lies at a different place in some sort of morality spectrum. I don't know. And everybody has just, it's so insanely confusing. And I don't know. I don't have
all of us like picking up different like sides of things and different information is like such a good point in that, because it's like not everybody is seeing the same thing you're seeing, and it's like weird because it's like, how do you develop a standard from that, you know?
I feel like being like on like having like just like idolizing people when I was like a teenager, being in like when I was like 12, whatever, like I feel like it now like has completely like I've done a complete 180 like now, to where like I like genuinely like wholeheartedly believe that like you can't be like a celebrity, like you can't like have like a level of power and fame and still be a good person. Like I just don't think that that's possible once you like reach a level of wealth, once you reach a level of power, like, and like I just like wholeheartedly believe that. And so I don't know, I feel like it's so interesting because it's just like a complete 180 from like, and I feel like a lot of people who like hold celebrities accountable or like criticize like people who are like obviously like being like performative, I feel like a lot of those people had the same thing where they were like on the other side of that, where they were kind of like blindly idolizing people because it's like what you did when you were like 13 years old. And now it's like just sort of like the opposite of that.
I think like the Taylor Swift like carbon emission thing, like that whole scandal, I think that was like super illuminating of like some of these celebrities, like, again, in turn, I don't think that I was first gonna say that I don't think that you should base any of your political opinions and like what like your fave says. I do think that like recently, like during like the Oscars, when everyone was wearing the ceasefire like now pins, I think that like those movements, the Me Too movement too, when everyone wore black, like that is like I think really important. And I think it also just shows like who's, I guess, willing to sacrifice some sort of fame or like, you know, lose followers like to like stand up against like, you know, corruption and assault that's happening in the industry and like has been for ever since the industry was the industry. Like Taylor Swift, for example, I feel like her neutrality is just in that case actually really harmful, as like one of like the most like like powerful celebrities in our era. And like the carbon emissions thing, like she's making like actual material negative impact on the environment and like not addressing it, and instead like suing the person that was tracking it and holding her accountable. Like there's just no accountability with it. Like yes, I understand like I guess like why Taylor Swift can't fly coach on like airlines like safely, but at the same time like there has to be some level of accountability, or just like why am I being shamed into using like a metal straw when this singular person is causing like so much disastrous impact on the environment. That said, I think that two things can be true of like holding these people accountable and saying like I don't agree with this, or like them not coming forward with this is like cowardly, but also like you need to have your own set of beliefs. And that goes into what I was saying before of like having these parasocial relationships. If you're waiting or like holding your breath for like whoever the fuck, like, you know what I mean, to come forward and post like Machine Gun Kelly to post his stance on Israel and Palestine, you need to turn off your phone, go outside and touch grass. You know, like I saw that what you're saying too with like the boycott list of people being like, this isn't actually effective. Like there's like these like sub arguments from the actual argument of like if you're if you're, you know, a Zionist or not. Like there's these sub arguments then, and all it does, I think, is like cause division. Find unbiased news sources.
Connect with the people around you.
Yes, not with not even celebrities, but with like people will base off of like their favorite Twitter accounts, like what they say. Like, and even I catch myself doing it sometimes of like, I'll be like, I love this person on Twitter who's like not even famous. And I'll just be like, oh, like I'm just going to side with whatever they say. And I'm like, what am I basing this? Like, you have to really like deconstruct that, because we are like the first generation that was really raised by the internet. And I think that there's a lot of like responsibility that comes with that, to like look inward and be like, I need to make sure that I'm still like finding my information from credible sources and not like basing so many of my opinions in other people.
That's like very true, and like I like completely agree, but I also feel like that's like very like clear for us to see as like 22, 23-year-olds, you know what I mean? But if there's like a 12-year-old that is just like on the internet and like has like a fan account or stuff, it's like it's like how we were like so wrapped up in it. Like we would just like idolize these people and like literally like believe like whatever they say and stuff. And like I feel like that's like, I don't know, I feel like that's like an interesting point of just like the influence. And I think it's gotten to a point where like, or it's like more so just because there's like so many sources out there and like it's a lot easier to get educated even as like a little, like even as a 12-year-old 13-year-old. It's like an interesting thing of like celebrities like influence on younger people. I feel like that's where like the danger is of like people who are just young and vulnerable and they like don't know anything and they're like, you know, maybe they're not like in the real world per se. Like we weren't in the real world. Like we were literally just like in the second world of the internet and like not actually talking to real people or not having like friends, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's such an easy thing to do when you're like 12, 13 years old.
Those kids that say like now, like I wish I was a teenager in 2014. It's like, honestly, I get why you do, because I do not wish I was a 12-year-old right now online. Like
Yeah.
I can't even cope. I can't cope with it as an adult, and I need to rely on the people around me. And like I can't imagine what it's like to be 12.
It's like become the new source of news, and however saturated it's become in literally just like different perspectives, and how people could be seeing something like totally different from what someone else is seeing is really, really terrifying, because I don't think it was as like that when we were younger. It was kind of almost like, okay, there's like the liberal side and there's like the other side. And that's how it felt online, at least for me as a kid, like on Twitter. And like obviously that's just like one person's perspective, but I do think it was like, it was more of like everyone more so team up and like enforce a sense of like let everyone be equal. But then like it's almost like taking the same system and reapplying it where people criticize one another and they're trying to all be on the same team. Just like taking one structure of like that had a good goal in the beginning and had like pure intentions, and then turning it into something else where it's just like the same thing but in like disguise. But yeah, I was also gonna say, Reece, what you were talking about, the sameera, I think you like said this and I wanted to bring it up, like about the like people at the Oscars, like Billy and Phineas wearing like the pins for Palestine. Do you guys really think that's doing anything? And like, do you think there needs to be like a standard of like doing more?
I mean, when we were talking about it, I remember like my whole thing was that like because there were like protesters like outside of the Golden Globe Theater, like pro-Palestine. It like caused the Oscars to be 5 minutes late because there was so much traffic and like celebrities couldn't get inside. And like, so it, like obviously like it's not something you can just ignore. Like it was literally like right there in front of you. Like to enter the Golden Globe Theater, like you had to see like these protesters, like you had to like witness it and stuff. And then like yes, like there were celebrities wearing ceasefire pins, which obviously I think is like important. It's better than the ones that aren't wearing it, obviously. For the only person that like brought it up in a speech was like the directors of like the zone of interest when they won. They were, I think, Jewish and they were talking about it, which I also saw like an interesting article about how like that burden shouldn't like be solely on Jewish people, which it kind of like almost has been recently.
It's like been misplaced kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously it's like at the same time, it's like, okay, like this ceremony is obviously corrupt, like everything in Hollywood is corrupt, and like we shouldn't expect these people to be good people, I guess. That's kind of my viewpoint on it. Like I just don't expect any celebrity to be a good person at this point. But I think it's also, I don't know, it is just kind of, it just feels like performative at a point.
Yeah, I think that like when you're actually like going, like I mean I think like the like Abel, like the Weeknd donated like $2 million. And I think that I feel like is less, like he did more than, any politician did. And I think like Hunter Schafer getting like literally like arrested like on the ground with people, that to me is like more meaningful than wearing a pin, which is very easy to do.
And honestly, yeah, a lot of stuff like that goes unseen. Like maybe the donating, maybe we don't know who has donated a significant amount of money.
We don't even like know really what people are doing. It's hard to hold people to a standard when like you don't really even know them. And it like that goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that's why, like holding the people in your community accountable more so might be the better way to go. Even though these people have a lot of influence, it might be something that's more tough to focus on, because I don't know that it's gonna I don't know that it gets us anywhere. It's a little bit out of our control. I mean, yeah, like the connections you make in real life and the conversations that you have about this in real life with the people that you know and that care about what you have to say and see you as a human are the best kind of conversations you can have. And I think that actually does make an impact.
Yeah, I think so too.
Can I just say it's like interesting too talking about this and being older and being like removed from it. And I think that's where so much of my fascination for like, I don't know, I think one of the most fascinating things is how people interact with one another. And I think that the internet was like a really magnified version of that. And I think that yeah, it's just like cool to grow up on something, and especially because we're in kind of that first wave of people who are starting to like talk about it and look at it and like psychoanalyze it, because people haven't had the chance to do it really yet. Like the people involved in it, like literally like only just started like becoming people, you know, like, and becoming like cognizant enough to recognize what all of it meant. And yeah.
It's really new information that we're now analyzing.
Guys, I have a question that's like totally shifting gears, but I also just feel like it got dark like really fast.
I feel like it's important.
Yes, I know that we had it, but just to like shift, just so we don't end on like such like a dark note. Can everyone tell just like one like crazy like stan, you know, internet story that they have of like just like a crazy experience?
Well, I used to, when I would have a crush on somebody on the internet in one of the fandoms I was in, I would build a giant Minecraft version of their body Minecraft, and out of blocks, because that's what's in Minecraft. And awesome. You would go inside of the body, go up a ladder, and you could go in their pants and in the rest of their body too.
Oh my god.
No, I know exactly the kind of structures you're talking about. Those were awesome.
Oh yeah, you're familiar with people, and so then I had a Instagram fan account, and I would always post like little tours of going inside the body. A real life crush, like honestly for the first time. And I was like, oh, I know what a crush is. I know exactly what to do. So then I posted it on my fan account, which I didn't realize his friend followed. And so he found out that I had made a giant version of him, but I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. I do it all the time with my other crushes. Why would it be weird if it's a real person? And that
How old were you?
12. Yeah, 12.
Okay.
And I didn't understand. It took me many years to understand that romantic crushes, romantic partnerships that I want are not people that I'm socially attached to and that I idolize. It's actually
a lot of the symptoms are the same, so it's easy to mix them up. I just love how that was like you're like, oh, I have a new crush, like time to get to building, I guess.
Time to get to building.
Time to get to building.
Gotta put in some elbow grease.
Yeah, so that's
really fantastic, fun. Olivia.
I think a funny story is, do you guys know Jason Nash from from David's vlogs?
Yes, of course.
Me and my friend Megan, we both were on like Tana Stan Twitter, and this was like an era where everyone was starting to download Venmo. This is like when Venmo was really new, or at least like gaining popularity and people started using it. And in like our perspectives, it was like, okay, only the LA celebrities use Venmo. So then we got on Venmo and started like finding all of their accounts and stuff because they would use their names. And that's what everyone on Twitter was doing at the time. And my friend made a fake, like she changed her profile to Andrea Russett's profile, and then Venmo requested Jason Nash for being in a vlog. And then he declined the request, but then sent her like more money. Like she requested like $5 and he sent her like 25, and then was like, I think this is a more appropriate figure. And then my friend got so scared that she deactivated her account and like
this is so weird. And the fact like I wonder if they ever had that interaction that like when like with like Jason and Andrea when he was like, yeah, like that, like did you get the $25? I wonder if they ever had that like confusing of like that wasn't me.
No, because it's also weird to like look at, okay, like was that their dynamic then? Was like, oh, like Andrew was in a vlog and like he was like expected to pay her, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, that was like insane. And I think we were like 14 or something at the time. Yeah.
So I forgot to mention this in the introduction, and this isn't like so much because I wasn't like standing anyone, but I was also I had like a poetry account on Instagram. And that was like the poetry community on Instagram went crazy. There were like names that were just like recognized by like everyone like in that community. And that was also like literally like I feel like that like exposed me to like so much. Like it exposed me to like queer relationships. Like it just like exposed me to like all of these things. There was like this girl Lauren that literally everyone was like everyone like idolized her. Like everyone was like obsessed with her. And
Do you know what her like username was? Do you remember?
She changed it like a bunch. I think it like ended at one point it was like PM, like just like P.M. But like there were like other like ones. She was best friends with Enchanting Haze. Ashley and Lauren were like best friends. Everyone loved them together. But then there was also like so much catfishing going on, like an insane amount. And like there was like a huge scandal because like one of the accounts like turned out to be catfishing as like whatever, like a 15-year-old guy or whatever. And he was like really like cool and like indie. And then it turned out he was like this like old man or like whatever. And that was like a huge like scandal. And everyone like freaked out because he was like messaging like girls and like other poetry accounts and stuff. It's not like really a story, but I just like I had to say that because I didn't like talk that in my intro, and that was like such a pivotal part of like my like middle school experience, I feel like, and also just like everyone on there being super depressed and suicidal and like literally talking about romanticizing like that stuff like every single day.
Nobody romanticized mental illness like the Tumblr and Instagram poetry community.
Well, literally things would happen like every day, I feel like. And like people would make drama because they were bored, and we like all we were doing was sitting on our timelines on Twitter.
That's like in a sense of community though, because like nothing brings a group of people together than some like online lore that we can all like dogpile on.
So true.
I mean, look at us right now. You know.
I feel like there were so many like girls like catfishing as like guys, like because if they in that community, like everyone would love you, and there weren't that many, so you were like one of the few guys, and it was like everyone would be like obsessed with you and stuff, and that was like such a prevalent thing, which is so interesting.
I also experienced that where like any guy in a like fandom, it was like you wanted to be friends with them, or like people like instantly made them popular because it was like one of the few guys who were there.
Especially since like none of us had boyfriends like in real life. So it's like, oh my god, like you like Harry Styles and you're straight, like you're the one.
Like literally.
Okay, we should wrap up because we've been talking for a while. So I'm gonna need you guys to do something for me real quick before we end off the podcast.
Olivia knows the drill.
Here's the drill, okay? So, you know, we're known as the Internet's Dead podcast, also known as the Josh Ovalle. Please be a guest on my podcast. You guys could just repeat this little thing after me and say, I state your name and then like any credentials you have that might help. Hereby request Josh Ovalle for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. We miss you.
Okay.
Naturally.
I'm not going to say it word for word.
Okay, that's fine.
I, Olivia DeVoe, hereby want Josh Ovalle shall be on this podcast. And
at least say we miss you.
We miss you.
I, Reece Catherine Herberg, am begging on my knees for Josh Ovalle to come on the Internet is Dead podcast immediately. Please come back home. All of your wives miss you. We're all like scared, like staring at the door. Like I know at least 3 of us have listened to the Cody Co. Josh Ovalle podcast. Like,
oh my god, like on a
times.
yearly annual.
Please come back.
Listen.
We want to recreate it. Please come back. I'm calling.
We miss you.
We miss you. We miss you. Thank
This
you.
is good.
God, these girls are crazy.
These girls are insane.